In my view, the term ghetto, as OP describes, refers to neighborhoods that aren't particularly appealing or attractive. It's often associated with areas on the less desirable side of town, characterized by poverty or signs of neglect. However, it's important to recognize that many neighborhoods categorized as such contain sections that are quite pleasant and sometimes even expensive. They aren't necessarily dilapidated or impoverished everywhere. I understand what you're getting at, though. To really understand this, you need to look at Los Angeles' historical development. The outskirts, especially those heading toward the deserts, used to be home to farms and oil fields, inhabited by working-class people. These areas could be rougher and less affluent, and therefore sometimes labeled as ghetto, but that doesn't apply to the entire region. What's more relevant to the question you raised is the civil rights era. Let me explain. Historically, the government limited mortgage loans and housing options primarily to white Americans, mainly prosperous, married, WASP individuals. Then, in 1959, California enacted the Unruh Civil Rights Act. This law was essentially an early precursor to modern civil rights legislation. It stated that discrimination in housing and loans could lead to legal action, but it didn't guarantee fair housing or lending rights outright. It mainly allowed people to sue if they faced discrimination. Later, in 1963, California passed the Rumford Fair Housing Act, which explicitly outlawed restrictive housing covenants and discrimination based on race, ethnicity, gender, marital status, or disability. However, in 1964, Proposition 14 was approved, which effectively nullified these protections by allowing property owners to refuse rentals or sales based on those categories. As a result, only affluent, white Americans could comfortably purchase homes. Changes finally came with the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which included the Federal Fair Housing Act. This law reinforced that lenders and sellers could not discriminate against individuals based on race, ethnicity, gender, or disability, ensuring broader access to housing opportunities. Many people associate civil rights mainly with racial equality, specifically black rights, but the language of these laws also covered gender, disability, and other groups. While it's true that once minorities gained access to housing loans and could buy or rent homes in certain neighborhoods, some might have brought economic disadvantages with them. This wasn't solely because of their racial or ethnic background. Many minorities had been historically impoverished or marginalized before these laws changed, and that economic struggle persisted afterward. Discrimination didn't vanish instantly. Often it was subtle, like the glass ceiling women faced in their careers. As a result, many minorities and other marginalized groups could own homes but lacked the means to maintain or repair them. Over time, this neglect caused parts of neighborhoods to decline, with properties falling into disrepair. As property values dropped, lower-income residents moved in, which could unfortunately lead to more crime or undesirable influences. Meanwhile, wealthier residents often avoided these areas, leaving many properties vacant, prompting zoning changes that allowed for cheaper apartment complexes and multifamily housing. An increase in density sometimes brought about urban challenges. Over the long run, these factors contributed to what many call a ghetto. On the positive side, these areas often have affordable housing options, and dedicated residents work hard to improve their neighborhoods. With effort, many of these communities have experienced revitalization. Whether you label these changes gentrification or simply progress depends on your perspective. Another story. Sharing my experience, I spent nearly 2 decades living in Downey before relocating, and my family still owns homes there, so I visit the area often. I've lived in different parts of the city, the southern neighborhoods near Old River School and Stewart and Gray, as well as the northern parts around Florence Avenue and Lakewood Boulevard. Generally, areas north of Firestone Boulevard and east of Old River School Road tend to be quite safe. The most desirable section of Downey is located north of Florence Avenue and east of Lakewood Boulevard, extending up to the freeways 5 and 605. Property prices there start around $800,000 and can reach several million. As you move closer to Imperial Highway, the neighborhood becomes a bit more rough or less upscale. At night, it's usually safe to walk around, although walking on Main Street south of Firestone might feel a little uneasy or sketchy. The commonest crimes in Downey are burglaries and thefts, particularly car thefts. My father's vehicle has been stolen 3 times over 2 decades. Interestingly, 2012 was considered Downey's safest year since 2002. Most of the offenders tend to come from nearby neighborhoods. Regarding gang activity, it's pretty much non-existent. I haven't heard of any gang-related incidents happening in Downey. The city has a program called Good, Gangs Out of Downey, which appears to be quite effective. The only issue that might resemble gang activity is graffiti, mainly in the southern parts of the city. In summary, Downey is a pleasant city surrounded by areas that are more economically challenged. Most crimes tend to originate from residents of the neighboring cities.